if I lost all of my income today, how long could I survive, or how many months could I survive? And even down to how many people can I help, what charity is going to give to you, or whatever. Like, if you have influence and money, you can do that.
Let's go.
Hey Darren, how are you, mate?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that.
Thank
There were a
God for
bit of
that.
technical difficulties there.
Yeah, mine as well. I've got a new phone as of like 2 days ago. So it was just saying, oh, you got to give your camera access, your microphone. I was like, oh, I forgot about how much setup there can be when you get a new phone.
Oh man, I know what you mean. Like, I'm one to basically, I'll run my phone into the absolute ground. So I had an iPhone 4 when the 6 still came out. And I got this tiny little thing, and everyone's got these massive, like almost bookcase looking things now. But I finally upgraded. I got the iPhone 6 at the moment. So I know it's still a little bit behind the times, and you know what? The iPhone 4, I actually got it fixed to keep it going longer. And then they looked at it and they're like, oh, look, this is just going to die. Do you really want to fix this? I was like, yes.
Yeah, that's it. I had the iPhone 6 and the battery just kept dying so quick. And I've only gone up to a 7. I don't need to be fully up to date. And even this one's confused me because it doesn't have a headphone jack. So it's just make it more complex.
Oh, they do. They really do. Yeah. Well, I watched a documentary the other day with Steve Jobs, and he has led a very interesting life. It was interesting how they kicked him out of his own company, and then he managed to come back. So persistence is key.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really appreciate you coming on today. So what this is basically, it's a regular segment that we'll be doing. It's called the Online Footprint Project. It's a Facebook Live interview, but then at the same time, I'll be stripping the audio and then putting it into a podcast, obviously called the Online Footprint Project. And then that way you get 2 levels of exposure for your business. It's going to be 3 with the YouTube channel. I'm still trying to figure that out though, because I've had a few tips, but I think I really need to do this on my laptop because on my phone, the access is very limited. And then when I strip the video afterwards, the mouth does this and the audio comes afterwards. So
yeah, totally.
So yeah, for now it's all podcast. But yeah, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. So yeah, let's hear about your story and who you are, what you do, and let's get right into it.
Sure. You just want me to go with my story? I love that question because I love. I guess my passion is I was born in 1977, same year Star Wars came out. So I feel like I was being created the same time that the first Star Wars movie was being made. And I grew up loving films, and I thought that meant I needed to make films. But back in the 90s, you didn't have the internet, you didn't know people in the industry. It was harder to find out anything. You didn't have DVD extras because we didn't have DVDs. But after bumming around,
I still have a VHS of Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly, right, and loved it. Like little 4x3 TV.
There's like black thing at the top and the bottom. You just trying to.
Exactly.
You got your little.
And sometimes
we had a black and white TV, and it was the size of a chair, and I would just sit in front of it with my Sega Master System.
Yeah,
and great times.
so
Sonic,
I thought I'd
back then.
Man, but compared to what came before, that was a big jump forward, going from
massive
Jetpack and Pac-Man and stuff.
Oh, just the quality difference, and then when they shifted again and went to in the Nintendo 64 and did just Mario 64. Yeah. I lost my mind. Like that was the jump there. That was like even now the game. I mean, the graphics aren't amazing, but the game holds up. Like if you play it, I'm a bit of a gamer, if you can tell.
No, totally.
It's crazy how they've held up. So yeah, back then, like Sonic coming out was just blew me out of the park.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree entirely. Yeah, Sega Master.
And Star Wars, the graphics there were crazy. But if you watch it these days, if you watch one of the undigitally remastered versions, in one of the movies where, is it Luke? He falls down and there's that big monster in the cave where he's got to fight off and he hides under the rock.
Yeah.
The graphics on that is atrocious. There's like this massive black line like behind.
Oh yeah.
But back then it was incredible. Like for what they've done is.
Totally.
Awesome.
Particularly when you're seeing it as a kid. I think that's why it stays with you so long. So I thought I loved making films. And so I ended up at university studying filmmaking. And actually for a long time, I then became a teacher and I taught filmmaking. I made films, just like short films and documentaries, like concert DVDs. Cool. But then And that was all good. That's also how I ended up managing the cinema, like an independent 2-screen cinema, because I was known as the film guy. My brand was like the film guy. But then I had my daughter.
Really interesting though.
Yeah, it's and I loved it. You know, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. I was like, man, I get to teach filmmaking. I make films. I run a cinema. This is awesome. I'm winning. And then my daughter was born, and I got postnatal depression, which I didn't know guys could get. And and I had to very quickly start to manage that. And I realized I'd also had depression and anxiety most of my life, because whilst I was managing the postnatal depression, I had some days where I was happy, and I was like, oh, hang on, you can be happy in life? I just thought you just suffered and just you had some good days and some bad days. But I started to discover you can actually be content and happy and euphoric. And that's how I came across kind of neuro-linguistic programming. That's how I started to read so much. It's also the epiphany moment. It's holding my daughter and realizing that no parent brings their child into the world and says, wow, I hope they grow up with like self-esteem issues and anxiety and depression. I hope they get a job that they hate and they work 50, 60 hours a week until they die. That's not why I brought her into the world. So I need to establish a life where she doesn't have to do that. And I also found from being working in exactly right. And also found from being in education that I teach 16 to 19-year-olds. So they've come through the education system. They've developed through secondary education self-esteem issues, some serious mental health issues, getting more and more over time, and they have no life skills. Like they have no ability to like critique the world. So if I say, oh, when you get a job, like how many days a week do you want to work? And they're like, oh, you have to work 5. I say, well, who told you that? Like, haven't you read like Tim Ferriss's book? Like, you can work 4 hours a week if you want. And they don't understand how much they should make. And we're basically programmed into this idea of selling our time for money and not very much money. So that was my kind of epiphany moment that, you know, I loved my daughter so much, but then I realized that I cared for my students even more. And I just wanted to help everybody have this kind of epiphany moment. And the reason I mentioned films is I realized it wasn't filmmaking that I loved. It was a narrative within films called The Hero's Journey. And this is it was discovered by a guy called Joseph Campbell, but a guy called Chris Vogler applied it directly to film. And it's a story you see in all films. It's really obvious in fantasy films. So you start off, in fact, we'll stick with Star Wars because it's easy. So you're Luke. Exactly right. Or they should do. You're Luke. You start off on Tatooine. You're in the farm, and you can complain all you like. I don't want to be a farmer. I want to go off and do this. I want to go do that. And then Ben Kenobi comes along, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to come and do this?" And Luke's like, "No, I've got farming to do." Because we all want this call to adventure, and it might be Dumbledore, it could be Gandalf, it could be anyone. But the hero isn't like a glory seeker. They don't want to go on an adventure because that makes them kind of egotistical, I guess. So you refuse the call because it's supposed to be scary. But then something happens, or you get a mentor, as we do in real life, and they say, no, you can do this. You'll be okay. You can do this. And you go off on the journey, and and you learn the skills on the journey to win. Like Luke wasn't a Jedi in Star Wars. He wasn't a Jedi in Empire Strikes Back.
Exactly. He was a farmer.
Return of the Jedi. Exactly. Yeah. So whatever you want to do in life, just start. And I realized that being the hero of our own journeys is what life is about. Finding adventures that are a little bit higher than our like ability level is how we then grow. Obviously, you can't go full on and go off on an adventure that's way out. Like if Luke had gone from Star Wars to the battle with the Emperor like in 2 days, he wouldn't have survived. Like you need to go on the journey.
Massive story behind it.
Yeah, exactly. And I just started to live my life like that. And that's how I ended up writing a book called Level Up Your Teens to help teenagers deal with life. It's how I started writing about things. And I'm just engaging with people on a global level like this. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and the way the internet now, where you can actually connect with literally anyone, it is amazing. And it's, the way that, I guess, coming with technology, going back to, say, the Star Wars, the graphics, and then, with a Sonic and then Mario, it's just fantastic how things are progressing. But coming back to the whole narrative there. So basically sure, man, go for it.
I was just going to say that when you're talking about graphics, you're so right, and we've seen this change happen. But now you've got people and parents and telling their kids to do jobs that are going to be replaced. There's so many things that are going to just stop being obsolete. That's the word I was looking for. Thanks. And we're preparing our kids and us to work in 2040. Like, we've got no clue what that. If you take us back to 1997 or 1987 and try and imagine the world now, like, there's going to be augmented reality, virtual reality. There's going to be jobs that don't exist. So the best way to live your life and to prepare my daughter is to just be curious and compassionate about the world, and to be able to pivot careers, because no one stays in the same career for 40 years anymore.
No, that's it. It's on average, you'll stay in a position for 5 years now. So it's really such a short turnaround. And I don't know if it's just because of, say, the amount of information we can now receive, but I almost feel as if I've learnt like an adult ADHD type scenario where, it's now just, you'll have such a short focus on one thing and another, which I guess in entrepreneurship is I've utilized that to be able to, I guess, manage or juggle several different things at once, which is good. But if you're not able to do that, really, if you're jumping from one thing to the next, you're not going to progress, because you're not really evolving in a skill or, really learning to a degree. I mean, you can certainly learn little bits of everything, which is awesome. But, just say with film, I imagine, you were really extensive in your knowledge for that, and that would have really pushed you a lot further should you chose to have moved forward in that career path.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those, well, the thing is, most things you do will have transferable skills these days, and film's kind of so relevant now. And talking in front of camera, it comes from teaching. A lot of the time, the skills you've got in any job, you can kind of transition or pivot into something else. Even if you are transferable. Annoying, like if you're an annoying a job, you're minimum wage, maybe working in a fast food restaurant. And I say this to people with that life. And I'm like, well, what are you learning while you're there? Are you just going in there, switching off your brain, like being a sheep, like, oh, I'm just like a zombie that works in the shop? Or are you going in there being like, okay, what was a good example of management and leadership that my kind of boss gave today? What was the excellent example of customer service? What is good customer service? What's the health and safety rules of running this place? If I was to take what I've learned here and set up my own burger van in a festival, could I do that? And what skills do I need to do that? And really, because every job is like a mini degree, you can take so much value from it. Absolutely. If you're being active. Like you could literally keep a journal and be like, what did I learn about today from my job? But not many people think that way. Yeah,
absolutely. And like using, say, fast food and McDonald's, for instance, their managerial program is actually fantastic. Like the amount of research that was put in to training their staff to then be able to progress into management is just phenomenal. Like, and it's not everyone wants to flip burgers, but if starting out, as a kid, we all had those, jobs that we didn't want to do. No disrespect to those that, are in, managerial positions now in fast food, but just as an example, just if we, don't want to do that as a career path, if that's not for us, we still did it as a child or as a younger person. And their managerial programs are just great. Like you can actually learn so much from them in regards to how to manage others, how to work with others, just how to manage your time better. Because McDonald's is go. So you've got to fit all that in. Is actually, it's a lot of work.
Exactly. It's team building, it's branding that they've got going on, it's working under pressure, it's dealing with aggressive customers. There's a ton of value that we just dismiss.
Yeah, absolutely. We just look at it and say, oh, well, it's just fast food. But it's really, it's not just that. It's it is a career, opportunity for some, but it's more just, personally, that the reason I'm saying that is because, it's not something I personally wanted to do, but not to dismiss it, because it really can be a great opportunity for many, especially for those that they don't know what to do, and they think, well, how do I get a managerial position? Because once you've got a managerial position behind you, that looks fantastic on your resume and your CV, where you can take that to then any position. Say, hey, I was a manager for 2 years.
Absolutely does. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many staff. If you're managing 2 staff, it's amazing.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, Darren, let's get into a bit more of so your story, your book that you've written. Let's touch base on that, because I think every entrepreneur wants to write a book. I certainly want to. So you've actually done it. So
my advice really is don't overthink it. Like, it's your first book, and I almost got lost in the whole, wanting to buy courses. Like, oh, I'll show you how to make a best-selling book on Amazon. Like your first book, that's a lot of work. Like I had a day job. So I've got a day job teaching media at college, and then I run a martial arts studio in evenings, and I've got a daughter, I've got a family. Like writing a book on the side, like if I can just get the book written, that's the goal. So I just wrote what I knew, and I'd spent the year, reading and learning how to manage my emotions anyway. So I'd come across mindfulness. I'd done a neuro-linguistic programming course. Stoic philosophy is really big right now, and I developed all these techniques. And this guy called Kevin Cruz is one of my mentors. He said that if you're going into a job and the person going up against you has got a business card, but you've got like a business card in a book, you've got more authority. And in fact, the word author is part of authority. It's a great credibility builder. But what I was going to say is my big moment for writing a book is I started to filter in smaller books. Because if you say, a book, that's like, it's going to take 3 years to write and it's going to be 40,000 words. It doesn't have to be 40,000 words. It does. Like, if you get a publisher will want it to be 40,000, 60,000 words. So it's a nice, thick, big book, and they can charge $25.99 for it or whatever they need to do. And how many reviews have you read where they've read like a non-fiction book and said, this is just a TED Talk with padding? And so, and most of us don't have time to read that. Like I've read those books, I get halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, and I'm like, I get it. I don't need to read the rest of this. I get what you're saying. So, and because mine was aimed at teenagers, it's just fluff. So I started to filter in books that were like 100 pages or 80 pages. And I was like, oh, well, I can do that. And I'd started writing articles, just, started out on medium.com. And you can write an article, 1,000 words, 1,500 words. You then start to realize that if you're doing one of those a week, well, in 6 months, you've got a book. So it became... So once you realize a chapter is, maybe just 1,500 words, you can start doing one of those a week. And then once you've got, 12 chapters, you're done. And then publish. Don't faff around. I was quite lucky because I was turning 40, and I was I'm publishing this on my 40th birthday for sure, or in whatever state it's in. Because I heard this, I think it's a technical, it's from like the tech industry and the gaming industry. And I think it's your most viable product, I think it's called. And it basically says, if you release a product and you're happy with it, you waited too long. And so we're seeing all these kind of like apps and games being released that you think there's flaws with this. And then you have to fix it on the go. With your book, the difference between 80% good and 100% good, you're the only person who's going to pick up on that. Like you're going to see all the flaws no matter what. So get it 80% good and release. And if you genuinely think it's going to add value to somebody's world or life, and you think it can enhance somebody's life, then you're selfish not to publish it. Like you've got to get it out there to help. So I know it's a long kind of rant, but it's...
No, I agree with you though, 100%.
And it's infinitely easy. Like once you've written the book in a Word document, you literally just go to Amazon. You can go to like KDP Amazon, just Google it, or CreateSpace. And in terms of KDP Amazon, you upload the Word document, a little kind of fake Kindle comes up and it says, this is what it would look like on Kindle. Is that okay? You say yes, and then you hit publish. Like there's no gatekeepers anymore. That's
it, and Amazon, especially with Kindle, is just, you can write a book now, like from anywhere in the world. And if you have it, I don't know if they've changed it, but when, I looked into a few years back, if you had it specifically just on Amazon Kindle or nowhere else, they would actually promote your work for you more. And if you're not happy with the results, that's what second and third publishing is for. You can always just edit it later.
And how many books have there been when it's like music albums as well? Like, how many times have things been re-released 3 years later with a different cover or a different title, and it does better? Or the time is right. It's like, I didn't write the book to make a ton of money, which is convenient because it hasn't made a ton of money.
They never do.
No, exactly. But I like the feeling, and it's certainly... and I tell you the other thing, by writing that book, that knowledge has gone like deep into my mind. Like it's probably changed the way I view the world, I guess, because I've read that so many. It's like studying in a deeper level. Yeah. So the process is fun, but I would recommend it. I just keep thinking. My only advice all the time is don't overthink it. Your job as a writer is to move the cursor from left to right and just keep doing that many times, and then eventually you'll have enough.
That's fantastic advice. Yeah, absolutely. So everyone that's listening in, if you ever thought about writing a book, just type in the comments, #book. We'd love to hear from you because this is some awesome advice if you're ever going to write a book. So, Darren, I really appreciate this. This is great.
No worries.
Yeah. Let's if you want to touch base a bit more on your book, let's do that. Or how about we get into more of with your teaching? Because I think that's really interesting. So you're helping children, especially with social anxiety, and I haven't really learned much about the real world. And let's dive into that.
Honestly, dude, I don't know what it's like I know that there's a big issue in America. I don't know about Australia, but mental health issues are on the rise. So if you look at primary school kids, so like, whatever, like 5 to 10, I guess, they're all happy. Yeah. And if you ask them a question, they raise their hand. They're really excited to be part of the class, and they want to contribute. And they've got amazing dreams of wanting to be like astronauts or whatever. And then at secondary school, so, kind of the teenage years, something has happened. They stop worrying. They stop wanting to contribute. They stop wanting to answer questions. Their dreams have changed as well. They're just like, it's all right. I don't know. And and it frustrates me because I'm a media specialist, so I understand the negative impact the media is having on us. Like from the moment they're born, no other generation has had this as bad. But the moment they're born, they're being influenced by the media to be unhappy because there's money in their unhappiness. So whether it's you need this product to have self-esteem, you need to look this way, you need to compare yourself to these people, just ongoing. So their self-esteem is destroyed, and a lot of the time the things they value aren't valued by their parents or society. So it's like, they just keep gaming, or I don't understand this YouTube thing they're doing, or I don't get Snapchat, that just seems stupid. It's like, if you take a moment, they can monetize any one of those things.
Absolutely. There's plenty of kids now on YouTube that are making 6 figures just from having a following. And, some in the older generations, they don't really understand, it's, they're basically, they're just talking fluff, and it's like, but that's what the audience wants. They want, from that demographic of, young teeny bopper girls, they want fluff. That's their demographic. So, you can really monetize doing anything you want. But we really do, I guess, in the older generations, that haven't changed with the times as such, they really do just, I guess, demonize these new industries that, weren't a job 20 years ago or weren't a career 20 years ago. And, as we were talking about before, really, just as we were talking about before in regards to that, new jobs are being created that weren't there before. So we've got to change with the times because everyone's so unhappy now. Whereas, as you said, there's big money in depression, and it is good that we're becoming more aware of it, though. That is in itself is a key. But then the question becomes, well, was it more apparent back then, or is it just something that we've now, I guess, created over time, as a society unknowingly, just because of Instagram with, everyone shows their best moments on Instagram or, on, Facebook, very rare that you actually, see rants and that sort of thing, and it's all kept in-house. And, but definitely, I completely agree with you. Very rare that you'd see little primary school kids that would be upset or depressed. There'd be the odd one where, you knew that the family was brought up in, say, alcohol abuse or substance abuse, and they were born into that. And they, would certainly be the bullies of the school and that sort of thing. But it's really not until, later on that they start to hit their teen years, or even just before that, they start to they lose that want to contribute, and everything kind of changes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And now you're getting like 4-year-olds who are worrying about their weight. Like how does that happen? Yeah. And that's going to be sadly parenting. That's going to be like a parents who are always talking about, getting fat or worrying about their weight. And so that, because this is how, like, neuro-linguistic programming I love, because I knew in media it's called mass audience theory. So how does a media impact you? And there's all these different theories around it. And it's dangerous to simplify it because we all have defenses against it. And I really wish media was taught at primary school, even if it was just a real simple, this image is fake, you don't need to compare yourself to these people. And that would build onto emotional intelligence. But we're just programmed. We're programmed by our media diet, like we are our food diet. We're programmed by who we hang out with. Like it's almost just too common now. Like everyone says it, and it's true that you're pretty much the average of the 5 people you hang out with, and you need to change your tribe if you want to change your life. But we're also programmed by the words that we use. And I don't know how true the statistic is. I imagine it's worse so, that it takes 20 positive comments to undo 1 negative comment. And I certainly, it feels worse than that to me. But not only is it external comments, but it's internal. So if you say to yourself, oh, I always mess up presentations, your brain's just like a computer. Your brain goes, okay, Darren, I've got the command, I've put it in, we always mess up presentations. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you just say, I always fail, I always mess up, like you wouldn't allow like a friend to say that about you. But we say far worse things to ourselves. So the neuro-linguistic programming element is just to watch that and change your language. So let's say, again, just because we were talking about students will say, oh, I have to go to college, or I have to go to work, people might say. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to work. You choose to. You choose to go to college.
I'm a college dropout. Twice.
Yeah. And the consequences are rarely as bad as you think. So if you say, oh, if I don't go to work, what happens? Oh, well, I might get a bit of a disciplinary. Probably not, though. Second time I choose not to go to work, I probably would get a disciplinary. But that takes a long time, right? Like verbal warning, second verbal warning, written warning, second
it's hard to fire someone. Like my story prior to working for myself was I was a state level medical practice manager. So I was dealing with stuff all the time. And there was one staff member that I wanted to fire for years, and HR was like, "Oh no, you've got to like show that you've tried to help, coax them through." And I was like, "Well, I've tried that, and they're lazy. It's not going to help." And they're like, "Oh, but we can't. We don't get sued." Blah blah. I was like, "If this is my business, they'd be gone a long time ago."
Absolutely, exactly right. So then I think, okay, maybe eventually I get fired. So what happens then? Oh, I just need to find another job. And what if I can't get another job? Well, I guess I can't make rent, so I'll have to move in with like parents or friends or something, and then recover, and eventually I'd bounce back. And that's pretty much a worst case scenario. It's never that bad.
Absolutely.
But we're so scared of failure because of our education system that nobody wants to experience it. And
that's it.
And this is back.
Yeah.
I was just going to say,
and one thing with entrepreneurs that, in this this frame now where we're starting to basically adopt that failure is a good thing because we then learn and fail forward, basically. Yeah, so failure is a good thing as long as we don't, become homeless. It's
exactly right.
Little failures and learning from it because, failure isn't a bad thing. I just use failure as feedback. It's only when we've stopped trying that we failed. That's it. That's the only, my 2 cents on failure. Like I only consider it a bad thing if you stop trying.
Exactly. And like one of the things I did with NLP is like a timeline exercise. So you go back in the timeline of your life to find when you had the skills that you need today. Because at some point you were amazing. And if you're looking at kind of mental health, at some point in your life you didn't have a mental health issue. So it's in you not to have it. In terms of failure, you've learned to roll, to stand up, and to talk. Like at some point when you were like 18 months or 12 months or 2 years, you were amazing. You never said, walking's really hard. You know what? This isn't for me. No, every single one of us learned. Exactly. We all basically taught ourselves to walk on our own. And we learn all these amazing things. Like my daughter, she's coming up to, she can use Snapchat. It's insane. And she loves it. And she loves solving things. But again, that gets beaten out of us during education and as adults. Because we're scared of what other people think. We're scared of failure. We're scared of looking bad in front of other people.
And the lessons we're structured to learn is crazy. Like in school, I didn't learn anything about tax. I need to know that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't learn about tax, didn't learn about compound interest, entrepreneurial tendencies, didn't learn about emotional intelligence, didn't learn how to deal with heartbreak, deal with going to a funeral. We learned nothing of value.
Yeah, I found Sesame Street had more value in emotional intelligence than it did in school.
Yeah, absolutely.
and what self-respecting teenager wants to sit there and watch Sesame Street? So, I mean, it's whatever you learn as a small child, and that's the end of
it. Exactly right. It's again, watching my daughter, she loves like children's TV, she loves YouTube, and I'm watching it thinking, where does this come from? Or what programming is it having on her? And you'll sometimes see her do something she's seen on TV, and I'm like, ooh. I remember very early on, I had to stop playing zombie games. I was playing one called 7 Days to Die when she was really small. And there was a point where I realized she was paying attention. And I was like, okay. I don't think our brains know that that's not real. Like our brains are the same as they were like thousands of years ago. Like they can't tell the difference between reality and fiction. It's Yeah, it's scary, the impact we're having on our brain.
Oh, absolutely. We'll even say like the 40s, or even, yeah, let's use the 40s for examples, when there wasn't really any CGI. It was, really just, you'd have your screens. If you saw Avatar today, back in the 40s, you would lose your mind, because that is clear as day. I bought I'm not really big on buying like fancy things, but I bought a TV a while ago because it was like super cheap, massive TV for like dirt cheap. So I was like, all right, done. It's got a 3D setting in it. And I'll tell you what, watching Avatar on 3D is just amazing. Like, I wish I haven't overwatched Avatar, because like the graphics of it is such a good film. They need to bring more films out like that, on a small tangent. But my point is that in the 40s, if you watched Avatar back then, for the quality of picture that there is now, you would not be able to tell the difference. You would think, what is that? Like, if that was on a huge screen, you'd just be like, wow, that's real. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've seen that with war games. I can't remember now, but there was a time when there was some war footage shown on like the news, but it was actually footage from Call of Duty or something. And like the journalists just could, or the researchers just hadn't spotted that it was not real. Just
yeah. Oh,
and
yeah,
once
there
you
was
start to
a
do,
thing, back, sorry to cut you off there, a few years back, for one of the new Call of Duties, I believe it was Singapore got bombed, and so there was a big fake news press release that Singapore had been bombed, and then it came out that Call of Duty was actually doing it as a promo, because that was part of their storyline campaign.
that's
and
amazing.
they obviously got slammed for it, because people were like, you can't do that.
Yeah,
But
totally.
you couldn't tell. Yeah, just the graphics were just amazing.
What's interesting, I don't know if you remember, but way back in the day, I'm not sure, maybe it must be 40s, I'm not sure, but Orson Welles did a War of the Worlds on radio. And from what you can
and
tell,
everyone sat and listened, because they didn't know it was fake.
Yeah, they thought Martians had invaded the planet. But why wouldn't they? They trusted the conventions with the radio. They trusted the voice of authority.
That's it. I mean, it's only now we're learning to basically filter information, because there's so much noise that we pick and choose what we want to listen to. Whereas, back then it was the radio was the authority, and television was the authority, and that's how old school advertising worked so well, because you saw a billboard and all it had to do is say, eat Campbell's soup, and you're like, all right, I'm going to do that. Whereas now it's like,
that's it.
Like, no, like I want ratings, I want Google reviews, I want to hear about
exactly
what's in it. Is it healthy? So we're really learning to filter information, which is a good thing. Like, it's fantastic, but then at the same time, it can be overwhelming. And I think, coming back to the whole mental health thing, learning how much is out there. They say that those that are very, very intelligent are more likely to get depressed, because they basically learn more about what they don't know. And they basically, especially those that aren't religious, for those that are just, they don't believe in anything after life, it's just the end, then, depression is a lot higher.
I get that. There's loads of movies that have informed my new way of looking at the world. I just thought we're like dystopian movies, but now I'm starting to think, okay, there's more going on there. The Matrix being one, obviously, and we can joke about being, entrepreneurial or trying to live outside the system. And if people are happy in the system, that's fine. But there's days when I just think, if I could take there's a guy in the Matrix, I think it's called Cypher, who goes back into the Matrix and has his memory wiped. And sometimes I think, that might be a nice thing to do. But there's one
scene. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying there was one scene where a guy, he's eating a steak and he's with the bad virus dude. I don't remember his name, but he's just sitting there eating a steak, and I was like, you know what? I know this isn't real, but it's fantastic.
Exactly. I don't care. I just want to be there. There's one called In Time with Justin Timberlake, and it's the one when they've got, once they hit 21, this glowing kind of countdown appears on their arm, and they've got a year to live. But all money is
on their wrist,
time.
And you can bet it with in poker and things like that.
But so if you buy a coffee, like a cup of coffee costs 5 minutes, and you get paid in time, but that's not fake. That's
exactly. The concept is still real to a degree. Like, certain things will actually take time off of our life. So you're buying some things and then it does actually deplete, that very just few, whether it's only a few microseconds, or if it's pretty bad, a minute or so. Like, it's it's a real thing. But some people die at 50, 40,
Oh man, that's scary. But even in terms of just how much time does it cost you to pay for that? So, if you're spending, if you buy a game for
true.
£40 or $40, how many hours you have to work to get that? And it's worse when it's something disposable, like a coffee, because you think, wow, I just had to work 15 minutes to pay for this coffee. Like,
I'd rather it's gone in 1 minute.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, a game you want to get some value out of, but yeah. And there's tons like that.
No, I agree.
There's loads of movies, which even the Hunger Games makes me think, particularly in terms of poverty and luxury. In terms of how there'll be some people who, because I think there's a lot, you can change your core programming. A lot of us say, the world isn't fair, and I should have this, I should have that. And that's just ego. I've been programming myself to think the world isn't fair, and it's not fair in my favor. Like, I'm so lucky. I can never complain, because it's just, I'm born now with, as you said, like, can you imagine growing up and seeing like a game like Skyrim? Like, if my 14, 15-year-old self could see Skyrim, he would just be like, you've won the world. Like, do you even go out of the house? Yeah. and then we've got all this kind of, the Marvel films, even, again, spoilt with those, but all this opportunity, able to connect on the global level, we're just winning. But it's so easy to feel sorry for ourselves.
Oh, definitely. And it's really a two-edged sword, because, I mean, look at, say, now with like your e-games, where, there's a massive industry where people compete playing video games. And some of these kids are taking away 6-7 figures just for playing video games. Yeah. So, it's crazy about how, connected we all are in the world, and we can really do anything now. But then, as that double-edged sword, because there's so much opportunity and we're all seeing the best of, then it's so much easier to get depressed. Whereas back in the day, it was a simplistic lifestyle, and it was no big deal. It's like you work your 9 to 5, which was simple. And
that's it.
Look at, even 2 generations ago, where you would stay in one job forever. Like, that was it. Yeah. Once you started, that was you done.
But now, the robots are coming, you can get made redundant just because we're not people. I mean, it's getting better for sure. But we're not people, we're expenses. The staff cost in most companies is the biggest cost. So as soon as things get tight, it's like, well, who are we going to cut? And it's not who are we going to cut, it's like, which number or which, how much money they're making.
It's not
like
a person, it's
Deborah from, exactly.
Of course, it's, it's not, sorry, Deborah, we're going to have to let you go. It's just, all right, well, employee 7 through 40, we're going to have to let go. But in your grocery stores, do you have the self-serving checkouts?
Yes.
Yes. So there's one perfect example where that's, slash jobs just because it's just automation, which is, but then at the same time, it's created new roles, because then there's self-service checkout automation technicians.
Exactly right. And even with those, they've done it in banks as well, and in fast food as well. They don't get rid of the whole workforce. They get rid of a percentage. So as long as you're the top 10, 20, 30% in your field, you should be okay. So what are you doing every single day to make sure that you're the best? You don't even have to be the best, but you need to be up there. And I'd certainly take being a teacher seriously in that way. I want to be, cutting edge and pushing forward. But also in terms of games, I was going to say Skyrim's a good example, because there's so many people spending more time in games doing things that they should do in real life. And I love games. I want to play them all the time. But I remember in a game called Fable 2, in Fable 2, I chopped wood for like an hour because it got like an achievement or something. But Sky was a good example, because, I went, you could be climbing a mountain and my wife would come in and be like, why are you heading up the mountain? And I'm like, I just want to see what's up there. Like, I wanted to explore every area in Skyrim, but I don't in where I live. Like, I haven't explored villages near me. Or if you go to a new town, you talk to every NPC, just in case they say something interesting. But I'll be at a party and I'll talk to 2 people. And I'm like, I'm getting more value out of a game. I'm exploring a game, and also changing jobs more. Like in Skyrim, it's mad. You'll be an assassin, and you join a thieves guild, and you go be a companion. And yet we kind of get stuck in real life to be like, oh, I'm doing this job and now till I die. No. If we live our life like a computer game, we can totally win. And and go in and get, if we had like a heads up display and we could see our own skills tree, and I could be like, okay, this is me, my presentation skills. This is my I don't know, running skills. This is my English skills.
Everyone will level up. They're like, I want to grind that out. Like chopping wood for an hour to get that point is just the grind in those games. So, to do that in real life, the ones that do grind are the ones that succeed. hands
exactly.
down.
But we,
it's the
but
shit that no one wants to do, but you get an achievement for it. And in case in life,
exactly right.
You get financial security, or you get a new car, or you get a house, or you can support your family.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think entrepreneurs have this issue sometimes that, particularly if it's a field where you need to be charging more money, like there's a joke, isn't there, that if you're a sole trader or business owner, you charge too little and you need to add it by like 20% and then add more or something like that. And
always undervaluing.
But the reason, undervalue it. But the reason you do it has to be out of love. Like Star Wars again, is it dark side stuff, light side stuff? And, in the future, our parents are going to get older. They might need to go into a home, whatever. If something happens to my wife, my daughter, can I financially help them? Like if I lost all of my income today, how long could I survive, or how many months could I survive? And even down to how many people can I help? What charity is going to give to you, or whatever. Like if you have influence and money, you can do that. You can just help more people. And it needs to be love. It needs to be for your future. Like Emily, my wife and I, we've got our daughter, Evelyn, she's amazing. But I think we'd like to adopt at some point, because we suddenly hearing lots of horrible stories about, kids who aren't as privileged as our daughter. So it's like, we need money to do that,
Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting you say that, because adoption now, it's once again, we're coming back to a bit the whole, being more connected with the world, where it's not only just, you can adopt there, you can travel across the world and adopt from anywhere, which is, phenomenal. But then on the flip, and it really helps in, areas that are really impoverished and struggling. Because coming back to earlier when you mentioned, there's two different sides of poverty and wealth. When I went to the Philippines only a few months ago, and the difference in wealth was crazy. Like there was one in the business district, stacks of millionaires. Of the 200 billionaires in the world, 3 of them were, living where I traveled, in the city there, in the Philippines. Whereas the difference in poverty where I was staying, like it was a really nice hotel, and I was suspicious why it was so cheap. And it was just because the area was so bad that I filmed a vlog for it for my YouTube channel, just because I really wanted to take it all in and share that experience. A lot of views outside of the car window, because it was a business trip. So, I wasn't really doing a lot of travel. But there was one street that I actually didn't feel comfortable taking my phone out of my pocket and film, because I genuinely felt uncomfortable, because it was only a few streets from my hotel. So this was smack bang in the CBD, where it was just a street of just tents and just empty cement bags. And there was literally a naked baby, like standing in the middle of the street crying. And I was like, shit, like, where's the parents? But they're all just let them run free, because it's just there. Like, don't leave the street. But, I didn't want to bring my phone out, because there's 4 months' wage for these people. Yeah. So it's crazy.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And I think there's people like, I wonder sometimes if people get annoyed with Ty Lopez. I'm guessing you've probably heard of him. Like he's the guy who's always with his Lamborghini. I was watching him on Snapchat, and I quite like him, but I was watching him on Snapchat, and he was
I appreciate what he's achieved. Yeah.
He was looking at he was saying he was going to buy this like penthouse apartment in this skyscraper in New York, I think, and he was showing the views out. And I was like, from your apartment, you would be able to see the worst hit areas of New York that are like just ghettos. Like you'd be looking down at ghettos and people were in massive poverty.
In the ghetto.
And you just spent like $5 million on or whatever it was on a penthouse, which is your like third one or something. Like I think there's a vulgarity there. I think if you've got that much, I don't think I could do that myself. I think, if I'm as successful as I hope, I don't want to be that person hoarding money. I just think it's, I like J.K. Rowling a lot, because I think she was on the billionaires list and is now off of it because she's given so much money to charity. Good on her.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, like even for the small, when I was working as a state level manager there, I was earning 6 figures, and a lot of that I would just piss away because, well, not piss away, but I'd basically just give it away, like not in cash, but I just say, oh, look, let me shout lunch. And, I took, all my friends out one time for this, just all you could eat oyster dinner and just trying to share that wealth, which, it's, I guess when you reach a certain level, you're either going to go one of two directions. You're either going to hoard it or you're going to give it away. And, in some cases, many multimillionaires and billionaires do it for tax purposes. But then there's some that are just philanthropists. Like, look at Bill Gates, where he has given away more money than most of us would ever even consider seeing in a lifetime. And that's amazing. Totally. And sure, it helps him in tax, but he doesn't do it for that reason. He's just a good guy. Yeah.
But then another lesson we can learn is the mistake I've always made is, as I earned more money in my life, I found new bills. So I got a nicer house, and I got nicer clothes, and I got a nicer car. And I think Warren Buffett didn't do that. Like, Warren Buffett lives in the same, like, he's a billionaire, I think, but he lives in the same house he lived in, not when he was starting, but when he first started to get successful. He didn't keep buying. And I quite like that. And whenever, I see friends that get a promotion or whatever, I'm like, do not find more bills. Like you don't have to, like, hoarding money, and it's one thing, but you can invest it and put it into banks. That's okay. But then the interest you're getting, or the compound interest, or the money you're making from businesses, you can then be generous with. Like I like that idea, because we want to make sure our kids are going to have an income. So you want that kind of generational wealth, but it gets obscene at some point. Billionaires just. Yeah, even like, my wife and I joked. I think there's a thing called a Euro Millions, which is like a lottery that's all over Europe, and the winning amount was 134 million. And I was like, if we win 134 million and don't immediately give away 100 million, then we're scum.
100%. Yeah.
We don't need that.
I completely agree.
34 million is too much money for me to comprehend.
If you've won that, you haven't earned it, and you've just been given it out of nowhere, to not give a lot of that away is just crazy. If you've earned a different scenario, but even then, like, you don't need that kind of wealth, and not to say I don't want to earn that kind of money, but it's just, you can utilize it for different things. In economics, it's for every dollar you earn extra, 50 cents of that you'll then spend on, whether it is new bills or, a new lifestyle.
Exactly.
And they say that from 150K onwards, your happiness doesn't change. Up until the 150K, then, the support for your family can increase and all that. But 150 plus, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that entirely. Be nice to.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. Who wouldn't want it? So let's get into a bit more about. So you have a martial arts studio as well. You run one of those. That's awesome. What kind of martial arts?
So it was with a global brand called Crazy Monkey Defense, and they were a brand that looked at it was life performance through martial arts. So it's not so much about competing with the other person. It's about managing your ego and the battle being within. It's with while someone's trying to hit me, can I stay calm? Okay. Can I manage my anxiety? Can I manage my fears? Can I manage my frustration and my anger? So it's really a way to develop tools to help you in life. Because fear-based martial arts is just dumb. Like the planet is safer than it's ever been, really. There's a great book called, I think, Angels of Our Better Nature, I think it's called, that goes into this. We're not likely to get attacked anymore. Statistically, the media wants to think that we are, but really we're not. So it becomes a really expensive, like, insurance policy against being attacked. So I want to make sure you're getting
in the Western world, especially.
Exactly right, for sure. So, and you just need
some
to
countries
check
not so much. Yeah, Western world, I completely agree with you.
But then I think in the countries you're talking about, like, knowing a martial arts is not going to stop a guy with like a machete or
that's
gun.
That's right. Like I watched a film recently, and spoiler alert here. It's called Jungle. It's basically with Daniel Radcliffe. It's actually a 2017 film. So hopefully you're not going to watch it, because this kind of ruins the ending.
No worries.
But basically, the reason I get on this is just because of the very, very ending. Because the premise of the film is that in the 80s, so only as recent as a few years ago, a few decades ago, where these guys are backpacking and traveling, and some guy says, "Well, I want to take you to show you this out in I believe it was the Bolivian jungle. It's somewhere in South America." And he said, "Well, I want to take you on this tour and show you this tribe that no one knows about, and there's gold there." And a fantastic film. I really recommend watching it. But basically, they go through, and Daniel Radcliffe actually gets lost, and it's a true story as well. He actually gets lost in the jungle, and everyone gets split up. And at the very end, I won't let you know what happens with Daniel Radcliffe, but one of the friends that goes off with the guide, because they split up, it says at the very end that the guide was actually wanted from the authorities for taking people on tours like this, yet he had no experience, and there wasn't actually a tribe out where he was saying there was, and they never saw that friend again.
Wow.
So yeah, and up until then I thought, wow, this is actually a really great film. Like, it was still a great film regardless, but it was like a heartfelt film. And then I read that and I was like, fuck, like that made me really sad. I was like, that's awful. Like, what would have happened to him? Because the guy was out there, he had a machete. That was what he was using, chopping down everything. So what happened to this guy? Like, if he got hacked up with a machete, like, wow, like, and just to even comprehend that really happens is just crazy. Whereas, in the Western world, it doesn't really happen these days. I mean, there are, mass shootings here and there, but just for your general day-to-day safety, the statistics of it is very minimal. The media really has played up the dangers of going out, and I guess that's how terrorism really wins in a certain degree, where they make you fearful of doing certain things, but at least the mass population's just kind of said, well, in certain areas of the world, we just got to move forward, and that's really helped to overcome that to a degree. I mean, it's still a very real thing, but
and I think it's in the UK, you're far more likely to be killed by a cow than terrorism. But no one really picks up on that statistic. Particularly, we live in the north of England. We live in Cumbria, so there's cows everywhere, and they're a bigger threat than terrorists. But we don't filter that in. We don't filter in the reality. It's I guess more dramatic when it's terrorists.
Because it's about cows falling on people, isn't it?
Or just I guess charging them sometimes. It's I don't know.
Have you seen a cow charge? They're actually pretty sprightly. I've seen it happen once, but it was more of a playful jest, and it was on a hill, and it managed to get air. I was like, I didn't know cows could jump.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw, there was a video, I think in the winter in Cumbria, they're put into indoors to keep them warm and alive. And then in the summer when they're let out, they spring around, they jump around like puppies. I saw a video of it.
That's kind of what I saw, and I was like, that's really cool. I've never seen that before. Even with YouTube, I've never seen that.
Totally. So the martial arts really, got me into stoicism, got me helping managing my ego. I mean, that's a tricky task. So you read Ryan Holiday's book. I can't remember what his book's called. The Obstacle is the Way, which is about stoicism. But it also gives you confidence to be able to take care of yourself, and that enables you to manage your fears, which is nice. Because in reality, you're not likely to be attacked, but holding yourself well, you give off confidence. It's a nice way to manage anxiety as well. Because again, it's what's the worst that can happen. And so if someone's yelling at you, whether it's in the customer service scenario or whatever, the worst that can happen is maybe they punch you. I've been punched a lot of times in martial arts. It's not that big a deal. The thought of it is way worse than what it actually feels like. And that's a lesson for life. We can worry about, what's the worst that happens if I mess up this presentation? Or what if I'm late for work? Or what if no one buys my book? What if? It doesn't change you as a human being. It doesn't change your ability to be generous, to be kind, to have integrity, to love your family. None of those things change. That's all within your control. This external stuff isn't important. But it was a fun martial arts. I grew it. I think we moved studios 3 times because the demand is getting bigger each time. But weirdly, it's been 5 years. And so it's like a hobby that got out of control. Yeah. And but I think I can feel myself moving away from it. I'll always do it. I'll still have it there, but I'm hoping other trainers will take more of the sessions over time. But I'm ready to move on to newer things. And the nature of martial arts is it's a lot of evenings, and I'd rather be at home with my daughter and my wife.
That's fair enough. And it's about personal growth. And if it's something you've really enjoyed for 5 years, and now you've done that, and now you want to move on, there's nothing wrong with that. You've learnt some lifelong skills that you can now apply anywhere. And coming back to the whole getting hit in the face is more scary thinking about it than it actually happens. I completely agree with you. Getting hit in martial arts is just something that when you're training, because I when I get the time, I'll try and fit in training here and there as well. And a friend owns a gym, and just the training. Those that actually do fight in a controlled setting, they're actually a lot more level-headed in situations that could otherwise get out of control. Like, you know, I'm 29 now, and there's, you know, very, very, you know, if you're going out saying, because there's a lot of millennials in this group, so, you know, with the, you know, the whole drinking thing on a Saturday night, it is a 99% chance that I will walk away from something that's, you know, going down. It's there's even been cases where I remember once it was just some drunken idiots, and some guy made a comment about my friend's pink shirt, and I was like, hang on, mate, you're wearing a pink shirt as well. He took a swing at me. I ducked, and I was like, I pushed him. I was like, dude, fuck off. Like, I'm done. And that was it. I literally just walked away from that, despite the guy had actually just tried to take a massive, almost like KO swing at me. And I was like, I'm seeing this coming from a mile away. I'm not going to get hit by that.
Yeah, and that's it. And if you do get involved, like, it's, you know, we get a lot of like doctors and nurses who train with us because it's a healthy environment, I think. And the amount of like one punch fatalities, like you hit a guy, he falls, hits his curb. Like, that's you in prison. It's like, was it worth it? What do you? Violence is never worth it. It's just easy to walk away. But it's almost
Oh,
no, you go ahead. You love what?
Oh, sure. I was just going to say that these in Australia, I don't know how you guys kind of you know, position it, but I love how they've actually positioned that now. They label it as a coward punch. So if you get a one-hit KO and someone gets knocked out, then that's jail time. And because, you know, dying is a real thing. Like, there's an organization here in Australia called the Sammy D Foundation, which is great for, you know, mental health and for all these different things. And it's because there was a father, he started the foundation because his son, Sammy D, actually got hit with a coward punch and died. And they started a foundation to educate others about it, which is, you know, it's a really sad beginning, but it's, you know, fantastic that they've done that to try and educate. And I do love how the media has labelled it as a coward punch, because, you know, back saying even in the 80s, it was, oh, he got KO'd. Like, you know, we've all seen Friday, like, oh, you got knocked the fuck out.
Sure.
Whereas, you know, now it's really it's shifted. So, you know, it's great in that regard. But sorry, Darren, you were saying.
It's just failure to communicate. I ended up breaking away from Pace Monkey, and now we do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, because that's growing. But it's I think it's a nice thing to do. But the failure to communicate is what's frustrating me the most. And I found that there's a lot of, like, you know, strong gym kind of more hyper masculine martial artists who think they're strong and they want to compete, and that just impresses me less and less as I get older. I just think there'd be people who think they're tough because they can fight in the ring, but they can't but they're cheating on their partner because they can't you know, have an adult relationship. And I think watching my daughter it's juvenile, exactly. Or you get people, you know, been running business for a long time, but they'll like cancel their payments, like to PayPal payments or whatever, and won't talk to me about it. And I think, wow,
worst thing ever.
It's like, and I'm a really approachable guy, you know. People come and go as part of business. I don't take it personally, but they don't want to have an awkward conversation. I'm like, this is insane. You don't want to have an awkward conversation, but you think you're tough and you will kind of get in the ring and do this. It's just the man box and toxic masculinity gets wrapped up in it, and I get less and less impressed. I think I think just violence and war is just an absolute failure to communicate, and I get stunned that we have, you know, like. I was listening to a podcast with like a high-level FBI negotiator, and he was talking about all the ways you can get somebody to kind of back down and see your point of view. And it's like, why aren't world leaders doing this? Like, how is anyone at war in 2017?
Well, there's big money in it. That's just the unfortunate reality. It's trillions of dollars with a T. So it's you know, that's just the unfortunate reality. Yeah.
So but I think martial arts is fun as long as it's playful, and it's but you don't take, you know, if you're sparring, you don't take it personally. Like if somebody, if I'm playing chess and somebody takes my queen, I don't take it personally. If someone rugby tackles me in rugby, I don't take it personally. But if someone hits you in boxing, it's like, and you have an emotional response. But the aim is to manage that. You know, you can have the response, but it doesn't then dictate your actions, which is just true of life. It's true of dealing with trolls. It's true of any obstacle and failure and success you have in life. It's how are you going to manage your response?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I 100% agree. But yeah, this has been really interesting. So everyone that's tuning in, so, you know, if you're on the replay, just letter R, so type in a hashtag Team R in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Know that you're getting some value out of this. Yeah, Darren, this has been awesome so far. So, mate, yeah, let's have a. What else do you want to chat about while I've got you on the phone here?
Man, I love it. I love a conversation on it. It's just kind of. I feel like I've been a bit rambly, but I like how
I'm
chill
enjoying
this
it.
is.
I'll be
It's a
honest.
really nice.
This is great. Like we got one viewer at the moment. Like I don't give a fuck. I'm enjoying this. But no, it gets views. Like I find that although the group's only got 250 now, yeah, by the end of the week we'll have at least 50 views. So this group is awesome. Like they're really engaging. I actually appreciate every single one of you for listening in because it's sometimes to get others' attention is quite difficult. So for them to give us their time to view this, I'm really appreciative.
The one thing I would say is there's a search for entrepreneurs to get kind of credibility, which is how the book idea comes up. I just wanted to say that I have no time. I think I've said this before. And you can do an amazing amount of stuff in like a couple of hours a week. Like we're coming to the end of the year. I started thinking differently in January of this year, so January 2017. My daughter was born in 2016. That's the year I had postnatal depression. Didn't achieve anything.
Which is crazy. Something like 10% of the US men have it. It's actually crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, men don't talk about it because we're idiots.
We
don't talk about our emotions. So I started writing articles this year, and I've had articles in quite a few publications. So like Good Men Project, there's The Mighty, which is about mental health, Thrive Global, which is Arianna Huffington's new company. Where else? There's another one. Lead X, which is a site I really like writing for. And it feels like to other people that I'm everywhere and I'm writing articles every week. Genuinely, I worked it out today. I'd only written 10 articles this whole year. So I was averaging less than one a month. But because I wasn't being paid for it, you don't have, no site has exclusivity. So you publish it on, I don't know, say the Good Men Project, if you can get into that. And then like a week later, you enter it into The Mighty. A week later, you enter it into Thrive Global. Then a week later, you put it on your LinkedIn profile. Then a link later, you put it on Medium and you have it on your blog. So with one article, you can actually syndicate that out maybe 8 to 10 times. So it feels like you're putting out way more content than you are. And you're starting to act like your own publishing house. And
no, I agree. On that, just quickly though, if you do have your own blog, with Google SEO rankings, it works your rankings if Google finds the same article in several places. So if you've got an article that you're duplicating, say 8, 10 times, if you put it on your own blog, I would recommend having one piece on your own blog and then slightly changing the wording and then duplicate that article in all your other, facets and avenues, just because you don't want to hurt your rankings in Google. So just a little tip there for you, Darren, and for all the viewers listening as well.
But that's interesting because I'd heard, and it might be wrong, but I heard as long as you put at the bottom previously published and there was like a backlink, that Google were okay with it. But I don't know,
to a degree, like it's because the little spiders, what they do is they'll kind of crawl around and they will take in as much information as possible, but they do pick up key phrases and words. So that can certainly help. But for the best results, I would recommend at least just changing that a little bit. But just for your personal blog, for everything else, get that out there. Like Huffington Post and whoever else has that much exposure that they don't need to worry about their SEO rankings.
Yeah, totally. Exactly right. And a lot of the time, the reason you can write for all these publications, if you're not paid, is the internet's pretty much infinite. And so if you get it on, let's say Thrive Global, which is taken on contributors, you're going to send the traffic there. You're going to use your social media reach to be like, hey, everyone go look at this article. And then if it gets enough, I guess, traction, the publisher will see it and maybe start to promote it themselves, maybe put it on their Facebook page, that kind of stuff. But it's actually pretty easy to write. And then you get that credibility. You can put on your website, hey, well, I write for this site, I write for that site. And it's amazing how many major, I guess, kind of entrepreneurs' credibility seems to come from the fact they're a contributor to Forbes or Huffington Post.
It's interesting you say that, because I actually had a guest yesterday and we were discussing exactly that, where I just mentioned that I wanted to get on, one of my goals is to be featured on entrepreneur.com and Forbes, and I found an arbitrary number, which I said like 10 years or something. It was ridiculous because it really shouldn't take that long. But yeah, just the tip was just to reach out to just as many journalists within that area as you can, and to really fast track that is first get featured on smaller publications, and then from there use that social proof and leverage it to then, when you do reach out to these journalists from entrepreneur.com or Forbes and say, hey, look, I've actually been featured in X, Y, and Z. And I'd love
Exactly
to
right.
maybe guest write for you, or, maybe discuss, an opportunity
That's
where,
it.
we can mutually benefit one another, because I can bring my audience to your page because I can, write, and you can learn from me.
I've got the same goal, like to get into Huffington Post, but so I go on Twitter, or LinkedIn,
Yeah.
you find every journalist or editor that works for Huffington Post, you make a list and you just engage, you like their stuff. It's the whole Gary Vaynerchuk thing, isn't it? Jab, 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 left hook, I think it is. Like you support, you're kind, and then eventually you hope to maybe get a kickback. But that's, but yeah, it is really, really achievable. And I heard recently, there's a quote from somebody who does write for Forbes, and he said at some point, he'd keep sending off an article, but is this one okay? And they'd go back and forth and be like, maybe if we do this. And at some point he was like, dude, we don't want one article. We want all of your articles. Like, this is time consuming. We want you to be like, hey, I've got 10 articles. Is this okay? And we want to see that you can handle being a writer, that you're regularly creating content. Like at the moment, I haven't done it regularly enough. So if they go look at my blog, they're like, oh, this guy writes an article maybe once every couple of weeks. That's no use to us, because I'm not going to give them enough content, right? I'm not valuable. Whereas if I was writing an article a day, they would be much more interested, because statistically, I'm more likely to have an article that's going to go viral or going to engage with somebody or be something that they're going to like. So it's just
the numbers,
and I can control that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just more exposure will, absolutely grow who you are and grow your online footprint. And that's the whole point of, this podcast, the Online Footprint Project, is a project to increase not only my online footprint, but all of my viewers and interview guests as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you will achieve that quicker than you think. You just, just need to keep moving forward. Keep writing. That's the main thing. Just keep writing.
Yeah. No, awesome. All right. Well, Darren, I really appreciate this. This has been a fantastic chat. We've both just waffled on. I've actually really enjoyed this.
Yeah, no. Games and films. It's what brings everyone together.
That's it. So everyone, if you're tuning in, whether it's on the Facebook Live or it's in the podcast, basically, we'd love to hear from you. Anyone on the Facebook Live, just so we know that you've gotten value from this. If you're able to just, in the comments there, just type in #TeamR, just as in letter R for replay. Love to hear from you. Now, Darren, before we go, do you have any shameless plugs that you want to mention? Because, that's what today's for, really, to promote you, promote your business. Drop the links in the comment when you're done. But, yeah, I'd love to hear some shameless plugs you've got.
Sure. Well, the main thing I've got is my book called Level Up Your Teens, which is on Amazon. It's only, I think, 99p or the equivalent, in other countries. It's great for, it can help anyone. It's aimed at teenagers and helping them deal with life. But actually, it might be worth anyone reading just to see how easy it is to write a book. Like, you'll read it and be like, it's about, it takes about an hour and 20 minutes to read. And hopefully, but you'll get to the end of it and think, I could have done that. Good. You go do it as well. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Other than that, everyone's welcome to find me on all social media. If you just Google me, you'll find me pretty much everywhere. But it's Darren Horne or Darren Horne 77 on every platform, even platforms that I'm not active on, because I'm a big believer in securing your username. So I think I'm
the same.
chat.
Yeah. But I got RossMac88, and I have not touched Twitter, I reckon, in a year.
Yeah. Got to secure it.
Yeah.
But that's all the plugin I need at the moment. It's but feel free to connect and ask me questions or whatever. It's I'm happy to help.
No, that's awesome. Well, Darren, I really appreciate this. If you're able to do us a favor and find us the Amazon link and then pop it in this post at the bottom, that way everyone can have a look. Because to spend 99 pence to spend for an hour of your time is amazing value. Like, to get a coffee for $5 is 15 minutes work, and you'll drink it in 5. So, $1 to spend an hour and a half is amazing value. Yeah. So, I really look forward to, the link below. And then, I, would love to read it as well. So, Darren, thank you so much to everyone. Darren Horne. Yeah.
I was just going to say, all your members, because it's global, isn't it? I guess they're not all in Australia. They're going to be all over the world. Yeah, that's amazing. I've got loads of reviews on the UK Amazon, but hardly any. I've got like 2 in America, and I don't think anyone anywhere else. So if you're on other countries, that'd be amazing if you liked it and gave it a review. And I read them all. I think all authors do. They mean a lot.
Well, you need to. I mean, it's all about using that feedback to basically fail forward and take that in and really utilize that, so you know how to move forward for second and third publication. Because I know what I like. I don't need you to tell me what I like, but I want to know what you don't like. And to isolate that for a single review, don't change your whole book. But if, as a general consensus, you're starting to get, comments that certain things need changing, well, that's something to really appreciate and listen to. And then that, all right, well, in that area I'm lacking, or I need to change this or that. So, one bad review isn't the end of the world, but if it's 10, 20, 30 to constructively suggest, even if it's worded a little poorly, and they're a little abrupt in their comments, if that's the general consensus, then we can all use that to learn to basically pivot and fail forward.
Sure. And sometimes bad is not bad. Sometimes bad can be profitable. The Transformers movies are not good movies, but the filmmakers don't care. That movie,
exactly.
What was it, 50 Shades of Grey? That's a very bad book, but it got made into
it's
a
awfully
bad
written.
movie.
Like I haven't read it, but I've read little bits and I've read reviews, and it's really poorly written. Like just the way they've structured it is awful, but it sells.
Yeah, it sells. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Darren Horne here. So once again, a massive thank you. I really appreciate your time. This has been a fantastic chat. Thank you so much. So I hope that everyone's gained some value, insight. I certainly have. I've learned more than we started. So thank you again for your time, and it's been great to talk about video games and books.
Yeah, totally.
Coming out, but all right, Darryl. Thank you again so much.